Hello, guys. It's Shane Davis, 20-year comic book veteran, here with another beautiful, lovely, sometimes she will make me a sandwich, wife of mine, Yanzi Lynn. And today is the day we're here to talk about SJWs and how they're labeling everything they hate as Comicsgate. So here we go. This is something happening in the comic book industry, and oftentimes on this channel, that is what we talk about, is the comic book industry and the great demise. But we also talk about other things such as pop culture news and reviews and such. So look down below, hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications if you're into that. But along the lines of comic books, and especially comic book Twitter, is a very interesting place because, of course, there's the labels Comicsgate, and you go, well, what does Comicsgate mean? And then, of course, you Google it and you come across Wikipedia and stuff that is oftentimes manipulated by people, not really any type of authority or anything like that. And the label hate group, hack group, whatever starts coming up, and then you'll come across some really cool comics if you keep looking. So why does this happen? One, because they're trying to bury something. They're trying to bury a group of people and people that have opinions and people that are boycotting buying certain material, especially if it's propaganda comics or SJW things or just Cal Arts type comics that people don't like. So something that's interesting that's been happening in this last year is if you just say something on YouTube against, like, say, a choice in character direction or a choice in anything in comics, if you start to say anything negative about the mainstream, you're all of a sudden, that sounds a lot like Comicsgate. And we're going to talk a little bit and dissect this a little bit. But what happens with Comicsgate? It's like, well, does that matter? Comicsgate kind of sounds cool. I like gates. I like comics. Like, what's up with Comicsgate? Yeah, but what Comicsgate means, and then what do you do is you start lassoing other terms that are really things you don't want to be called, like maybe a racist, maybe a Yahtzee, maybe whatever, and that becomes like this bat that you'll be beat with is the CG bat. And why do they beat you with this bat? Is because they want you to have the same opinion as them.
Right. I mean, if you say someone that, oh, that sounds like Comicsgate talking points, and then they're like, oh, let me check out what Comicsgate is. First thing that comes up when you search on Google is some pretty slanted news articles. And then you can be like, yes, I do not want to be associated with that. And unfortunately, you get all those labels picked up and you're like, wow, I better not be touching that thing. This group here called Comicsgate. So what Comic Drake over here is saying, Spider-Man Twitter is a toxic hellscape that's oftentimes just as bad as Comicsgate. The never-ending insistence of, my opinion is the only correct one, is everywhere and showcased by constant infighting. Weaponizing fandom to be gatekeepy assholes doesn't somehow make you more a real fan. For people who are wondering what he's talking about, it seems to be over that whole Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and of course our latest boy, Tom Holland. So people are actually debating and saying which is the best Spider-Man. And you know, every fan each of this Spider-Man belongs to a different film era. And people are saying, oh, this one's better, that one's better. This is not arguments, however. He says, oh, it's as bad as Comicsgate. And what do people think about Comicsgate? Well, let's look at some of the opinions in this thread over here. Didn't know complaining about Spider-Man was as bad as racism.
So, well, see, this is the utility behind this tactic SJWs do. First, you define the name Comicsgate, and then you start to then lasso things to it, like I said before, and racism being one of it. It's a group of racists. Yanzi's a proud card-carrying member of Comicsgate. Are you a racist, Yanzi?
Well, I mean, they like to call me an Auntie Chen because I'm not on their side of the fence, so I guess that will make them the racist instead. But see, when you say Comicsgate, it somehow becomes synonymous with certain terms, like all these people. So let me read this tweet here. You can't compare some of the worst people in the industry, promoting racism and sexism as their main selling point, to some fans disagreeing which adaptation they like better. And then it's like, all right, if you look at Drake's original tweet, nowhere does he mention racism or sexism, but somehow this Nora over here immediately associates Comicsgate with racism and sexism. So that's how you do it. You say Comicsgate equals X and Y. Then therefore, when you say Comicsgate, everyone thinks X and Y now instead. And of course, let me just go through some of these examples because this is all dog whistling at this point. I'm all for inclusiveness and love your stuff, but this is a rough take comparing overly involved fans who prefer a specific version of the same character to racist and sexist bigots. Well, gee golly, doesn't that kind of sound like some of those fans who are like, really passionate about how Iceman is like this character, and suddenly like, oh wait, by the way, he got zapped by the gay nator or something, and he became gay, and they're like, wait, so we prefer that specific version of Iceman who has always been portrayed as heterosexual, and suddenly he becomes bisexual, and we are now racist and sexist because of that. But all right, you know what? I don't know. I got nothing.
But what was interesting with that tweet though is he's responding to being beaten with the Comicsgate bat for having an opinion, and he's saying, "Well, fuck you for beating me with that bat. I'm you can't." So now it's interesting that the tactic starts to swing back. It's like this tactic works. It does work to usually mute somebody's opinion because they accuse you of sounding like it, and then all of a sudden you stop saying your piece. You stop voicing your opinion, and then if you're not arguing against, like, well, I want this flavor of ice cream, not that on the pizza, or whatever you're arguing about, however small it is. Whatever fictional characters you're arguing about, like you start to conform to the person's idea that says you sound like Comicsgate, and it's interesting to watch them back and forth, and in a way, the SJW is eating their own. And what kind of happens here in a weird way is if everybody starts accusing each other of being Comicsgate, like, does it mean anything anymore? Everybody's been calling each other Yahtzees for the last few years on Twitter. Does it mean what it originally means?
I've been called racist just because I'm in Comicsgate, and then I'm like, well, excuse me, I thought I'm supposed to be on your side. I'm a minority here, and they're like, no, you don't think the right way, so therefore you're racist. Like, okay,
and it's weird that people call you this because you don't want your characters to change or go through a meat grinder or a sex change or their nationality to be changed, and all of these things. And it's like, well, I'm a fan of all of this content I've been watching and reading for years, and never was it racist, sexist, or anything like that. So why are you pushing that onto this character? And this becomes like a weird, interesting thing that's happening in all of pop culture right now, where fans that have been supporting these IPs with time, their interest, and money, their money out of their pocket, all of a sudden they're left like trying to defend the memory of the IP or the intellectual property that they did love and support versus being called an ist or phobe. And it's an interesting time.
Well, look at this one. So this is how they end up spinning the narrative more and more to suit them. So this Fitty here says, Spider-Man Twitter can be shit. But are you seriously saying the kids gatekeeping people? Well, look at that. Now they say we have to gatekeep fans. Is often as bad as literal racist and sexist assholes harassing and sending death threats to writers and artists. Here's very interesting. He claims that people are harassing and sending death threats to writers and artists. But to date, every time people say, can you show some receipts? They're like, well, you can look it up yourself. Nobody has ever actually been able to show any receipts of this so-called death threats being sent to anyone. So,
well, yeah, but that
you just gotta say it. You just have to say it.
Right. And this is the thing, too, like going back to Comicsgate and then defining what Comicsgate is. First, you build a label, then you fill it with a bag full of BS labels that are like, well, you know what a racist is. Well, then you know what Comicsgate is. Well, you know what a sexist is, then you know what Comicsgate is. And this is the same tactic where, like, they do death. You don't really have to prove it. You can just come up with any, Comicsgate, they build death rays. You know what a death ray is? Well, that's Comicsgate. A plague. You know what a plague is? Well, Comicsgate made plagues. You can just do this all day long. And then, you don't agree with a plague. Well, you don't want to be Comicsgate. You don't want to be making plagues. Okay, well, you're not those guys. And it's just, there's a lot of utility to this. I do have to give it up. In a way, I just think the more this gets used, the integrity of this starts to fade away. And I just don't think it's going to work. It's like a rubber band that you can only stretch it so many times before it eventually snaps, because it just doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right. So here is another tweet that I really want to point out. He defines Comicsgate as a literal harassment campaign targeting women, POC and LGBTQ people is absolutely worse than people being mean to you over social media opinions. Well, that's funny, see. A lot of times when we critique a book that we paid real hard-earned money for, that is a valid opinion. That's a social media opinion. But somehow that makes us a literal harassment campaign, I guess.
Harassment is really just being loud until you get your way, especially on Twitter, right? I mean, that's basically what harassment they're referring to is. So, like, in a way, SJWs are harassing themselves into changing intellectual properties and pushing stories that nobody really wants and nobody really asked for. So, like, it to me, in a lot of ways, the harassment that they're talking about online is literally a two-way street, and arguably even more so on their side, on the harassment.
Right. And one last one, of course, the gold standard for. They're definitely, with the day here is referring to Spider-Man Twitter, they're definitely not as bad as literal white supremacists and bigots. All right. So, Comicsgate are literal white supremacists and bigots. Hi, Mom and Dad. I'm a white bigot now.
Yeah. Well, I disavow that.
I have no idea what to say.
Anyways, we would like to point out our second campaign, our first being Starlight Cats, which is about a little Singaporean girl, big adventures, cats in space. And this is Inglorious Rex, our second campaign. We are already, in just a few weeks, getting ready to cross $170,000 on this really big campaign. And I will leave you guys with the trailer for Inglorious Rex. Please look down below, hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and hope you back this campaign. Catch you later. Bye.
Pardon me and my tone. You can't step to my throne. They ain't working like me. I did this on my own. You asking where we been, huh? I don't know where to begin, huh? All this dirt on my skin. I just came here to win. I'm more than a man, I'm a monster. Somebody call a pastor, doctor. I got a 6 cents for imposters. So now I'm coming for the whole roster. It's not a game, why you playing with me? You could double back, lose track, try and hang with me. It must be in my veins, something you can't tame, cause I break the chains. Can't control me. I got the power.